it's time for the final off-season recap. Recap number 3, the free agents, my reaction, my thoughts. Yeah. Leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video. Not much more to be said. Brandon Ingram. He got a max contract from the New Orleans Pelicans. I pretty much think we all thought he was going to re-sign with the New Orleans Pelicans. And I really like the fit with Zion. Brandon Ingram obviously showed his full potential in 2020. After some years with the Lakers where he did play decent, he just didn't play. He just didn't play great. Yeah, I mean, great signing there. In my opinion, great signing. Next is one that kind of shocked everyone, including myself, and that's Gordon Hayward to the Charlotte Hornets, where he got a four-year, $120 million deal, which looks a lot like the Batum contract, which was another really bad contract. And people would say it's an overpay, but I really don't think it's that much of an overpay considering the Pacers and Celtics were willing to pay him $110 million. So if you think about it, like, you're only technically overpaying him like $10 million from what the other teams were willing to give him. He opted out of a $34 million contract. But that's what the Hornets were going to have to pay to get any top tier free agent. They were going to have to pay more than some other teams. Because for one, you're going to a worse team, if we're being honest. Yes, LaMelo Ball is there. Yes, other players are there. But he could have went to Boston, and they could definitely be in still title contention next season. Next is Fred VanVleet signing back to Toronto, and I think this is a good contract for the Raptors. 4 years, $85 million. You're paying him about $20 million a season. I think that's a good contract in my opinion. I don't think it's not a reach at all. I think it's a great contract. I did not think that he would re-sign with the Raptors, but I think that's a reasonable contract for both sides. Next is Davis Bertans, another player that re-signed with his current team. A lot of the top tier free agents signed with their teams from last season. He signed a 5-year, $80 million contract. And this, in my opinion, is a bit of an overpay because he pretty much shoots. He doesn't play defense that great. He really just doesn't do much else. But, technically, it's not bad because you got to keep Bradley Beal, John Wall happy. John Wall doesn't seem to be happy. He seems to want out of Washington, which I don't blame him. Next is Joe Harris. Joe Harris got a 4-year, $75 million contract from the Brooklyn Nets. Another player that re-signed with his current team. I think this is really good value for what you're getting. Joe Harris is going to shoot threes, not play great defense, but he's okay on defense. Like, he's not going to just look terrible on defense. Next is Bojan Bogdanovic, who signed with the Atlanta Hawks for a 4-year, $72 million deal, which is going to be about $18 million a year. This was definitely a need for them. They had their small forward in DeAndre Hunter. They obviously had their point guard in Trae Young. They had their power forward in John Collins. And they had their center in Clint Capella. But what they didn't have was a shooting guard. They had Kevin Huerter starting as a shooting guard, and he's maybe a good backup, but not anything else besides that. Next is Marcus Morris, 4-year, $64 million to return to the LA Clippers. I don't necessarily like this. I think it's a bit of an overpay for Marcus Morris. That's just my opinion. Next is Danilo Gallinari, who signed again with the Atlanta Hawks, 3 years, $61 million. I actually really like this signing. I think it's pretty good considering John Collins' contract is going to be up, and he wants a max extension, and I just don't think that's happening. I don't think he's worth that amount of money. So I like this signing. He could play small forward and replace DeAndre Hunter, even though you would think they would want DeAndre Hunter starting since he was their 2019 top 5 draft pick, but apparently not. Next is Jeremy Grant, and he signs a 3-year, $60 million contract to go to the Detroit Pistons. Like, really, Detroit, the Pistons? that's really what you want to do. That's uh. He's not good on offense. He plays a great defense, but his offense is eh. Um, this makes no sense for the Pistons. Why are you trying to act like you're going to compete when you're just a loser and you should be tanking? Next is Malik Beasley. He got a 4-year, $59 million contract. This signing makes absolutely no sense to me. You drafted Anthony Edwards with your first overall pick, and then you want to re-sign another shooting guard to take minutes from Anthony Edwards. I mean, maybe they assumed Anthony Edwards just was not going to play basketball anymore. Maybe that was it. Next is Jordan Clarkson, who re-signed with Utah for 4 years, $51 million. I think this is a pretty good signing for Utah because Mike Conley just is not their point guard. He's not a good point guard anymore. He did play a little better in the bubble, but he just really was bad through the season. I don't think he should be a point guard, and you probably can't get off that contract if you're being honest. It sucks, but you paid him a bunch of money, and you kind of can't get off that contract. Next is one of the more underrated free agent signings of the offseason, and that's Christian Wood, in my opinion. He signed 3 years, $41 million. I thought he was going to get a near max contract. I think he could have got paid a lot more somewhere else, but apparently he wanted to go to a contender, and the Rockets are a contender with Westbrook and Harden. If they trade them, then it's a totally different story. But I think he'll be really good for this team. I think it could make the Houston Rockets significantly better. Next is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who re-signed with the Los Angeles Lakers for a 3-year, $39 million contract, where he will be getting paid about $13 million a year. I don't think this is a significant overpay, considering he was their third best player in 2020. And, I mean, I think it's okay. Not terrible. It's just the fact that it's okay. Next is DeAnthony Melton, who re-signs with the Memphis Grizzlies for 4 years, $34 million. I think this is a good contract for Memphis. Good contract. Nothing much more to be said. Jay Crowder signs with the Phoenix Suns for 3 years, $29 million. I really like this for the Phoenix Suns. I think this is great for the Phoenix Suns because you finally get that small forward, and I think you could still probably you could play Crowder at the 4 or Bridges at the 4, whichever. I think they're going to probably make the playoffs in the West this year. Next is Derek Favors. He goes back to Utah, 3 years, $29 million. My question is, why is he getting paid more than Serge Ibaka, Montrezl Harrell, players that are better than he is? Why is he getting paid more? That's my question. But whatever. Yeah. Dario Saric re-signs with Phoenix for 3 years, $27 million. I think it's a bit of an overpay for Dario Saric. Next is Jacob Poodle, who got paid 3 years, $26 million to re-sign with the San Antonio Spurs. This seems to me like a significant overpay. He's not a starting center. The Spurs need to rebuild. They're not a team that I think is going to make the playoffs next year. Next is Mason Plumlee, who went to Detroit for 3 years, $25 million, and very frustrating. If I was a Pistons fan, I'd be very mad because that was Christian Wood's money. That literally just went to Mason Plumlee. Next is DJ Augustin, who went to Milwaukee for 3 years, $21 million. I think this is okay. He's going to be very good off the bench for a backup point guard. Next is Rodney Hood, 2 years, $20 million to re-sign with the Portland Trailblazers. I think this is pretty good. I think he could be a great six-man off the bench for the Trailblazers, considering they traded for Robert Covington. Next is Serge Ibaka, 2 years, $18 million. I like this contract. I think it's a pretty good contract. I think he's better than Montrezl Harrell and deserves more money than Montrezl Harrell. But I think it's a great contract. Derek Jones, 2 years, $18 million to go to the Portland Trailblazers. I guess he's just going to be coming off the bench, which but whatever. Montrezl Harrell signs with the LA Lakers, 2 years, $18 million. This is surprising to a lot of people, including myself, because I mean, $9 million, that's a steal in my opinion. We've got a few more free agents to go through. Paul Millsap re-signed with Denver for a 1-year, $10 million contract. Rajon Rondo went to the Atlanta Hawks for a 2-year, $15 million contract. Rajon Rondo's just going to be a backup point guard who's going to be pretty good. Goran Dragic re-signs with Miami for 1-year, $18 million, which I think is a good signing considering you still have money for Giannis if he does not want to resign. Justin Holiday resigns with Indiana, 3 years, $18 million. And the final one that we're going to talk about in this video is Tristan Thompson to the Boston Celtics for 2 years, $18 million. I think this is a good signing. I just don't think he is as good as a Montrezl Harrell or a Serge Ibaka, who got paid pretty much the same. But yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. That's my thoughts on free agents. Yeah, thank you for watching.